I want to create a culture that embraces the working mom.
Go do stuff that's worth talking about. And if you live a life that's worth talking about, then people will talk about it for you.
We're the group that's going to say, this is what we did. This is what we created value for our client.
Who are the top 3 interviews on your highlight reel? From South Bend to Evansville and everywhere in between, this is Get In, the show focused on the Hoosier State and the incredible stories happening here today. I'm Nate Spengel, founder of Get Indiana, and I will be your host for today's conversation. JC Hart Company is your answer to navigating the apartment rental journey. With almost 50 years of creating enjoyable living experiences in Indiana, you'll be sure to find your new home sweet home. You're going to find 30 communities in the best areas Indiana has to offer. Hamilton County, downtown Indy, Bloomington, just to name a few, along with 5 brand new luxury communities. Visit homeisjchart.com/Nate to find their list of locations and reach out to one of their many dedicated leasing agents for a personalized tour. Tell them Nate sent you and they're going to take good care of you. Looking for a career in property management? You'll also find a list of open positions on their website, along with all the reasons why JC Hart is named one of Indiana's best places to work. Want a sneak peek into life as a JC Hart resident or associate? Be sure to check them out on Instagram at homeisjchart or visit homeisjchart.com/Nate. One more time, home is JC Hart. Today I'm joined by Nicole Pence Becker, a proud Hoosier, born and raised in Columbus, Indiana, with deep roots in storytelling and community impact. Nicole is a seasoned journalist with more than 15 years of experience. She's earned 4 Emmy Awards and now leads Pence Media Group, a Carmel-based PR and marketing consultancy known for its innovative approach. Balancing her role as a business owner with being a mom to 4 young boys, Nicole embodies the spirit of Indiana through her dedication to family, philanthropy, and helping others tell their stories. Today, we're going to be talking about growing a career in traditional media and the evolution we're seeing with that traditional media, then transitioning to business owner and growing Pence Media Group. And finally, we're going to wrap it out with family life around Indy and a few of Nicole's recommendations. Welcome to Get In.
I love it. Nate, thank you so much. And congratulations on your incredible success. It's really been fun to watch you grow and watch the Indiana community kind of love you back. So
It's been awesome. They're really, really good to me, and we're just getting started. So it's
sure
gonna be fun.
I can feel it.
Well, let's take it back. So the first connection point that we have is DePaul University,
DePaul
right?
Tigers.
Yeah, which I love, and that kind of slingshotted you into a career in traditional media. So tell me about where you got that first job after DePaul.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I went to DePaul, I went there because of the D3 opportunity. So I was a cross-country runner in high school, and I wanted to run, but I didn't really want to run. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like I wasn't going D1. Like my sister went to Vanderbilt, and her whole life was running cross-country. I wanted to go D3 because I loved how DePaul could say you could do radio, you could do TV, you could do the sorority thing, you could do whatever. And it wasn't, as, time consuming.
Did you know you wanted to be on, when did you know you wanted to be on TV?
I knew I wanted to be on TV since I was in, I think 8th grade is when I started to tell my parents I wanted to be a CNN Espanol news anchor.
Wait, what?
Oh yeah, fun fact. So I actually have my degree at DePaul is Spanish and then communications. And I always kind of said I want to go and I want to be a television news anchor on CNN Espanol. It had just launched when I was in early high school years. I know, isn't that interesting?
Wait, so you're in Columbus, Indiana.
Sí.
Did you see? Did you go to North or East?
I went to North.
Okay, Columbus
Bulldog.
North. Go Yes, that's it. Come on.
That's it, my friend. You got it.
Go Bulldogs. So you're an 8th grader at Columbus North, and you say, I want to be an anchor on CNN Espanol.
See?
And people looked at you probably like you had an extra head growing outside of your neck.
Yeah, they did. I mean, they did. But my mom is first-generation Italian immigrant. So she spoke all Italian. We didn't have Italian as an opportunity at Columbus North High School, which, lots of reasons there. I don't even know if they had French. So I got really involved in Spanish and loved it. And fun story, because I know you're going to love this just as somebody who just loves community. I didn't have an opportunity at Columbus North at the time. They didn't have a broadcast program. They didn't have anything that you could kind of show that you were a good storyteller. They had a newspaper, but it was kind of like a newsletter that went out once a month. So I went up to the principal and said, I want to start this thing called the Stall Street Journal. And he was like, okay, what? And I was like, I want to write just a little newsletter. I want to print it. And I want to be here early in the morning when I'm at cross country practice. And I want to tape it up in the stalls of the bathrooms and see if people read it and get to know what's going on, what's cool, what's happening in the clubs, what's happening in just around campus. And half of them, Nate, ended up on the floor throughout the week. But it was my way of kind of being a little journalist at Columbus
Yes.
North High School. And I just was super proud of it.
What
So that was my
year-
first foray into journalism.
That is an incredible start. What year did you, like, of your high school
Junior
career?
year.
So did you do it for 2 years?
Did it for 2 years. And then I read the
years.
announcements. And that's how I thought I was a news anchor, because I read
Yes.
the announcements and I wrote the Stall Street
That
Journal.
was such a coveted job.
It
Like,
was.
if you got to be the student to read the
was.
announcements, it's like she has made it.
It was. And I do remember, I don't know how I'm transitioning here, but you're just kind of pulling things out. I remember then when 9/11 happened, my senior year, and I was reading the announcements during 9/11 because they were in the 9 o'clock hour. And the assistant principal came in and was like, "Hey, Nicole, can you pause?" So I paused, and then I remember that whole experience because I was actually in the main office when that happened. And so I was seeing the television, before, kind of, and then we all got let out of school. And I will never forget that moment. Yeah.
Wow.
So anyways, I don't know how I got there, but that was my journalistic debut
Yeah,
at Columbus
starting
North High
with
School.
the Stall Street Journal.
You got
I
it,
love
my
it.
friend.
I mean, half of marketing is just the name, right? And you have it there. Like, people are going to be a little bit interested on
and
that.
here's the thing: is the first couple ones, people thought, "Oh gosh, that Pence girl is being annoying and printing this thing and wants everybody to read it." And then after a while, they were like, "Hey, I'm in theater, I'm in band, or I'm in Key Club, or hey, the wrestling team won this over the weekend. Can you put it in?" And I got really proud that people were seeking out that opportunity to share information.
At first, they're all like judging and making fun of it. And then after you persevere through that, then they're like, "Oh, wait, will you put my thing in there?"
Exactly.
Like, it's the same thing I've seen with social media, with a lot of stuff. It's like you put out one podcast and they're like, "Oh, great, someone's starting another podcast again." Then you put out 50 podcasts and they're like, "Oh, like this is a real thing. Like,
Right.
I
And
want to
you-
be a guest and I
And
want to
you're
come
like,
on
"I've
this."
been here. I've been doing this, but thanks for just now noticing."
Exactly.
Yeah.
You just have to be a lot of that, like early entrepreneurship type stuff is a lot of perseverance, which I love. I think that's so cool. Starting in 8th grade and then continuing, was the focus, when did you shift from, "Hey, I want to be on CNN Espanol," to "I just want to be in the field," or what was that?
I think it was more like that was the only option. So then I went to DePauw, and DePauw had a great television program, but not like Ball State, not like IU. We didn't even have a live newscast when I started at DePauw. And so then the Source started eventually, where it was once a week, a live newscast, and I was the anchor of it. But I actually learned all my chops for broadcast in radio. So the most fun, I was the news director of the radio station. I was the general manager of the radio station.
WGRE, your sound alternative.
Yes, that's right.
I love it. I think that everyone, so Lexi Maynard's here as well. And I think all three of us probably have some experience with D3 TV, with WGRE. Here we go, DePauw. This is your case study for media coming out of Greencastle, baby.
Traditional and non-traditional,
Yeah.
right? So I know we're going to get into that. So then I went and got really involved at the radio station, and I loved it. I love just storytelling. I love interviewing people. I love kind of just pulling out nuggets, going different places with the conversation. And from there, though, Dr. Jeff McCall, got to give him a shout out at DePauw. Still, I talk to him to this day. And he said, "I love that you love radio, but you are meant to be in broadcast. You are meant to be on television, and you have all of those chops. You need to get over to the TV station, do a little bit more there." And so I worked with Larry Abbott, made my tape. And the reality was why I didn't necessarily go to CNN Espanol is because they didn't take you like that. So I thought if I worked my way up as a local journalist in market to market to market, I could then eventually get to CNN Espanol. Now it transitioned, and then I realized, okay, I don't necessarily want to go fully into CNN Espanol, and I just wanted to keep growing as a broadcast journalist. So.
Okay, I love Larry. He was awesome, great mentor for me when I was coming through there. And I hosted, I think this would have been 2018. So sports gambling wasn't legal yet in Indiana, and I hosted a sports gambling show. He was like, "Well, as long as you don't say you're betting on it, then you're allowed to host the show." So I had read between the lines.
You're just talking about gambling.
Yeah, we were just talking about sports with the guys.
Yeah.
But it was so fun, and we had switched to like a YouTube channel at that point.
Yeah.
And it was so much fun, and I learned so much, and it's crazy to see the stuff that we learned in an extra club at DePauw, kind of, I guess if you call it like organization club, whatever you want to say. Now, like in real career life, it's like probably the most applicable, like directly applicable thing that I had from my time at DePauw, which is awesome.
Which I love that.
So I know a big thing with traditional media is you kind of have to like raise through the ranks. Like you start at like
That's right.
market 200 or whatever, and then you try to get to market 170, and it's almost like slowly crawling up that ladder. So where was your first station at?
Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Oh,
And
yes.
I love the fort. So, from Columbus, Indiana, I kind of just hung down. And at the time, I feel like Columbus was like Southern Indiana. Now they're trying to call it Central Indiana and trying to pull it up a little bit closer to Indy. But at the time it was, really Southern Indiana. There was 2 stoplights from my house to downtown to Columbus North High School. Now Columbus is incredible, and I hope we get to talk about Columbus and its kind of transformation that I've even seen, from when the time that I was younger. But my first television market was Fort Wayne. Market, I think at the time was like 125, and I was really proud that I got into top 150. And
that's a really good starting spot.
It was a great starting spot because they decided this was the first television station in Indiana that was going to connect and be the NBC and ABC under one roof. And it was Indiana's News Center, and still Indiana's News Center today in Fort Wayne. And we were the first, me and another reporter were the first reporter hires. And it was the best first job I could ever have because I knew Who's Your People. I knew Indiana. I didn't know Fort Wayne. I'd never been there, but I kind of, I felt comfortable. There was like a familiarity to it, but it was also the general assignment of the world because politics is big in Fort Wayne. Sports, you have some of those, leagues up there.
Yeah, you have at the time it would have been the Wizards that switched to the Tin Caps,
yep.
and then you have the Mad Ants, the Comets.
Yeah. Comets.
Like there's
Comets was big. That was
they
big.
love.
And
so I'm from like just west of Warsaw originally. So we would drive over to Fort Wayne to go to Comets games and watch some amateur hockey, or I guess professional hockey players. Professional hockey players punch each other.
And I didn't know much about hockey. So in general, I had to learn a little bit. So we covered sports there. We covered politics. We covered general assignment. We did a lot of education. The city government was really growing at that time. So it was the best first market I could have ever asked for. And I loved the city. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I thought it was fun.
Because I feel like, what year was this?
2006.
2006 in Fort
2008.
Wayne. I feel like the last maybe 15, 20 years of Fort Wayne, they've been up and to the right.
100%.
Like really, really investing. I know Sweetwater. I've had the CEO of Sweetwater on.
I knew that.
And they just have the way that they're able to attract people from Nashville and Los Angeles to go to Fort Wayne and live. Like they've definitely taken a hands-on approach to helping make that place a great place to live.
And don't forget Vera Bradley. So I know you talked with Lindsay about that on your last podcast. And Vera Bradley, they were awesome. I did so many stories with the ladies from Vera Bradley. I did so many stories with Sweetwater, all these huge companies that were saying, we're not leaving, we're investing in Fort Wayne. And I really enjoyed it. It was hard. It was my first, assignment. And I just was in every sort of opportunity. And then I'd fill an anchor, but I'd mostly be a reporter. I mean, it was fun.
That's awesome.
The hours were wild. I loved it.
And you're getting started. Like you got to say yes to everything and cover everything and learn. You learn what you really like to do. You learn what you don't like to do.
But you got to do it all.
How long were you up in Fort Wayne?
I was there for 2 years.
Okay.
And so that's kind of what it is as a general assignment reporter. So you're in your market, that first market for 2 years. And then you go out and throw your tape out. And then I got the opportunity to go down to Lexington, Kentucky.
Which would be market
Market 65.
Oh,
so I took a big jump, and I was really excited and really proud, and I got to work at the NBC station there.
And for people that don't know, when we talk about market 120, market 60, it's based on viewership in the metro. Mm-hmm. So Indianapolis, the central Indiana.
Market 25.
Market 25, right? So you kind of stair step. I know one of my buddies started in Terre Haute, which was market 160 something, and then had just been jumping, and you kind of climb up this ladder based on viewership for your station.
Yep.
So market 120 to start is one really good. Then you go to market 65.
Yeah, it's 65, I think.
Okay, so you're 2 years out of college.
Yeah.
You're in market 65. What are you doing there?
I'm general assignment reporter to start. And then I just was in the right place at the right time. And to kind of piggyback on what a phrase you just used, and I was working hard and I was saying yes. And so the main morning anchor, who had been the morning anchor there for 12 years, had a baby and decided at the exact same time I was the morning show reporter that she didn't want to return, that she wanted to stay home for a while and shift up to she did not want to return to the morning show. She wanted to shift and have a less reduced schedule and go up to the noon show. And she left the coveted #1 morning show in Lexington, Kentucky. I was like, I want my name in the hat. And so there were a couple other people that put their name in the hat, and I got the opportunity. So
what do you think helped you get that opportunity?
Because I always said yes. I'm the daughter of a Marine, and my dad always said, yes, sir, may have another, kind of that mentality from the Marine Corps. And that's what it was for me. And I was good at what I did, but it was also I was working hard. I was saying yes, and I was always curious. So whether the story was about politics or education or, business, I was curious about it enough. So then I made, I think, a great story out of it because I asked enough questions so the viewer felt like we all learned together. And that was always fun.
That is Oh my gosh. In media, being curious, and you can't really, I don't know if necessarily you can completely teach that, but I just learned so much from sitting here and just like probing just a little bit deeper of like, interesting. Like, and just like, if you have a natural curiosity and can talk a little bit about a lot of things, you can do super, super well in any sort of media, which I love.
Curiosity also implies that you are a good listener. And I think that's something in this world today we're not quite all focused on, right? Like if you're truly curious, you're also going to listen to hear other people's opinions. And whether they're different than yours and you agree with them or not, you're still curious enough and you take it in to hear it. And I think that's something, the world isn't doing as well today. But in Lexington, man, that was kind of the best opportunity that had landed in my lap.
I mean, okay, so take me back. You're sitting at the desk. First morning, like how are you feeling? How does the first show go?
Oh, I'm like sweating. I'm certain of it. And I was so overwhelmed because everybody around me had been a veteran anchor. But what was fun about that show, that morning show in Lexington, WLEX TV, is not only was it the number one and we grew it every single year, is it was me and 3 guys. And so it was just a fun show. There was a lot of lightheartedness, and I brought in, and along with our co-anchor, a different energy. Like at the time, news was very rigid and kind of do this and talk about this, and I was very like...
And use your newscaster voice.
And use your newscaster voice, and everybody needs to know that it's snowing, right? But I really wanted it to be more community focused. Like, what are people talking about? What's happening? What's a new business that's opening? Let's showcase it. So I started to do really community initiatives. I started something that I ended up bringing up here to Indianapolis, Nicole in Your Neighborhood. And these were just focus segments and features on like, hey, somebody opened a bar. I'm curious about it. I'm sure my friends are too. And I brought that perspective, and so did our whole team and our producing team. And it just was fun. And NBC station and being in Lexington. Have you ever been to Lexington, Kentucky?
I have not been to Lexington.
Please put it on your list.
Okay.
I tell people if I didn't live here home in Indiana, I would move to Lexington tomorrow.
Really?
It is so cool. There's just like pomp and circumstance. And, you've got the UK basketball and SEC and football. And then you've got, the regal, horse country. And, there's a lot of money in Lexington. It's bourbon country. It's coal country. It's interesting. There's a lot of dynamics down there.
It does seem very proper. Like,
Yes.
everything around, it's so funny because when I think of Kentucky, proper is probably not the first thing I think, but when I think of the Derby and all that stuff,
Pomp
I'm like,
and circumstance.
yes, very
and
well-to-do.
in Derby's in Louisville, and so we were the NBC station, so I got to do all the anchoring from Derby. On Oaks Day. Oh, huge hats. They always dolled
Big
me
hat
up.
and the mint juleps.
Mint juleps, big hats, fabulous outfits. I still have all of my hats and bring them out on Kentucky Derby. But in Lexington, they have a racetrack called Keeneland.
Yeah.
And that one is, to be honest, better. It's cleaner, it's brighter,
Hot take.
it's gorgeous. Hot take. It's gorgeous, it's fun, it's got this energy. People get dressed up. Keeneland races in April and October every single year. So Nate, put it on your list of things to do.
If I ever decide to leave state lines to go out and explore somewhere, I love it. It's on the list. Keeneland and actually going to the Derby. I think that would just be a really fun experience.
So I got to do all of, all the anchoring for the NBC station. I would prep, it took a lot of work to prep, know the jockey, know the trainer, know the horse, know the owners. You had to be ready to come correct.
I think that people think it's easy to just like get on and like you read off the teleprompter and stuff. The prep work that goes into being a good host of anything, that's where you really win. Like if you want to be a great interviewer, a great podcast host, great anything, just have great conversations. It's like go in there knowing enough to like have an intelligent conversation and ask the right questions.
It's all about preparation. So whether it was UK Final Four, New Orleans, we won that year. Anthony Davis, our point guard, so that was pretty good. I'm down there. Those days were 15-hour days. I did 17 live shots in every single day, and I was field anchoring all of our coverage, and the Cats won. What did I need to do? Oh, I had to learn basketball. I'm like, I'm from, is Columbus, Indiana, right next to IU. That's where I got my master's degree. I know a thing or two about basketball, but not the particulars. I had to learn them real quick because the Final Four in UK.
Oh yeah,
I had to know.
You want to sound like you know what you're talking about.
I needed to know what I was talking about,
and then you get excited about. And I can just sense the personality. Like it's very like I see it's like similar to me, where whatever the thing is, I can get really excited.
Really excited.
You take me to Derby weekend or Final Four basketball or the symphony, and I'm gonna get really into symphony for like a week. And just
But
be like, oh, I love this
that's
thing.
that curiosity, right?
Yeah.
That you obviously have, having created this awesome platform.
I love it. Okay, so how long were you the anchor of the morning show?
I was there for 5 years. So I loved Lexington. And then I got called up to be the anchor up here in my home city, in my home state. WTHR brought me up to be the weekend anchor. And then I officially moved over to Fox 59 to launch the 11 o'clock show called News Point. And so I was the solo anchor, developed that show, executive produced that show alongside the executive producer. The ticker that's still a part of that 11 p.m. show on Fox 59, that was our idea. So that show was really kind of my most proud
11
moment.
p.m. or 11 a.m.?
11 p.m.
Oh, this is late night.
And like they did all these, when I anchored that show on Fox 59, it was called, Fox 59 News Point at 11 with Nicole Pence. And I was the solo anchor and carried the show. And everything was very serious because I was 11 p.m. and, crime and everything. And I liked it. But I do love morning shows better because I can show my personality. And then I eventually went and anchored the morning show on CBS 4 because Fox 59, Tribune, took the CBS affiliate from Wish TV. And so we took CBS 4 in-house at Fox 59. And I went down to the morning with my brand to anchor the morning show. And then Debbie Knox anchored the evening show. Wow. And I wanted mornings back again because it was a little bit more aligned with my personality.
Lively, yeah. Like you don't have to be so like serious, like me bugging,
But won some Emmys on News Point, won some Emmys on that. So.
I wanted to get into this because Emmys this is something I recently learned about.
Yeah.
Because I think when people think, oh, I won an Emmy, there's like the national Emmys, but then there's also like regional Emmys too. Mm-hmm. So, and that's a big milestone for a journalist, right? And to win 4 of them is incredible. So take me through the process of how winning an Emmy goes.
An Emmy is decided not only by your peers as a part of the board of Emmys, but there's groups of, so the Emmys are part of the national organization. So when you win an Emmy, I mean, I wouldn't say it's equivalent as like when Susan Sarandon wins an Emmy for the daytime soaps, but kind of, because you're judged in your own zone, right? Mm-hmm. You wouldn't maybe put, the Mad Ants up against the Pacers.
Yeah, it's like you're not competing against the Today Show.
Exactly, right. So it's about your DMA. It's about your viewership. And so here in Indy, we go in what's called the Great Lakes region, and we compete against people in this area. And I, have been honored to be nominated for, I think, 8 or 9 Emmys and have won 4. And then recently with Pence Media Group, we were nominated for another Emmy for a production that we did for a client
Who was
that
the
I
client?
also anchored and hosted, National FFA.
Oh, heck yeah. I love.
So that's kind of cool because just full circle, having done and been an Emmy award-winning journalist, and then I know we're going to get into that, pivoting and then starting this company, and then still bringing it back to broadcast somehow, that's been kind of cool.
Yeah, that's super cool. So. And I think that, learning about the Emmys is just super interesting to me about like how this is a big milestone.
It's coveted.
And can help you. Let's say you're in market 60 and you win an Emmy and you can get that jump up to, 25 or whatever.
Right, because it's affirming, right? It's affirming from your peers and from the Emmy board saying this person knows how to tell a good story and knows how to be organized. So I won a couple of my Emmys for, morning show, anchoring, breaking news. I love breaking news because, you gotta really carry a lot and think through and ask questions. I won an Emmy for my coverage for David Letterman, his retirement. So I went out to New York and did all of our field anchoring for that and did some awesome produced stories beforehand. And that was really cool.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Well, it's clear that you are ambitious, which I love.
Okay.
And I think in traditional broadcast, right, if you want to be ambitious, you have to continue to climb up markets. So you are in Indianapolis, which is market 25. Mm-hmm. And the clear next step, I think, you're already hosting a morning show in Indy. You're winning Emmys. Like the next step for an ambitious person would be Chicago, New York, LA. Like one of those top 10 markets.
That's right.
And was that appealing? And obviously we end up making a different choice to kind of pivot out of there into something different. But like, were you considering a move to a bigger market?
Well, short answer, no, because I love Indiana and I love my family and I've always put my family first. So I did not want to uproot my family and leave my extended family and go chase those dreams. And so after a while, you just, you might have aspirations. I did in 8th grade to be on CNN Espanol in Washington, D.C. And then you have reality and you realize, what is the balance? What do I want? What do I value more? And in my life, I've always valued my personal life and my family more than my professional career. And I'll say too, with broadcast, it's one of those rare areas like sports, it's zero sum. It's only one morning anchor on that television show. There's only one evening anchor. So in Indianapolis right now, there's 5 female morning anchors and there's 5 female evening anchors. It's so zero sum, right? So if you don't, it's not like a PR company. I can own a PR company and so can 1,000 people in a 25-mile radius right now. Television, like sports, there's only one quarterback, there's only one anchor. And so because it's so zero sum and a little cutthroat, as they say, it's not as collaborative as maybe I would have wanted it to be, because I'm such like a hype girl team player. And so that's kind of, I think, part of the reason I've developed this company, because I really was looking for a little bit more collaborative.
Well, so take
work.
me to the moment where you decide to step away and go pursue something besides traditional broadcast.
It's called having too many children in a short amount of time.
Yeah, this was a big milestone that I wanted to talk about. So 3 kids in 13 months.
That's right.
That'll do it.
So, and I know you don't have any kids yet, but doing that math is a little wonky. So I was pregnant with the twins when I was the morning anchor on CBS 4. I came back when they were 8 weeks old at 2:30 in the morning. I got up, left the house, anchored the show, didn't get home till about 1 o'clock, tried to take a nap, then mommed until about 8 p.m., went back to bed, and then boom, woke up every day at 2:30. It was a grind, and I was totally ready to do it. I was like, this is my thing. I've worked my butt off. I'm finally at the top. I'm the main anchor on this morning show in Indianapolis. And then I went to a Beyonce concert with my husband and some friends in Chicago. This is a true story, obviously. And I had like 2 drinks. And I woke up the next day and was like, man, I don't feel good. And the twins were 4 months old. And I found out I was about 6 weeks pregnant with Matthew.
Beyonce, the queen.
Beyonce, the queen. I had all this energy of like, I'm going to go and kick butt and like get back into my career and dive into it. And then it was like, nope, there's a different plan. So I worked up until 4 days before I had Matthew. And the station was like, we're going to give you 10 weeks of maternity leave, not 8. We're going to give you 10. And I looked at them, I said, guys, I just can't. Like, this is God telling me you don't have a choice. You got to pivot for your family. And to be honest, Nate, like, I was mad. I was sad. I cried a lot. I was frustrated. My whole identity was wrapped up in being this television news anchor.
Since 8th grade.
Since 8th grade. CNN Espanol, Wall Street Journal, yo. And that was hard. It was hard. But I had a 1-year-old, a 1-year-old, and a newborn. Who was going to take care of them,
Yeah.
You couldn't even do them alone, because you had like 2 bucket seats for the twins and then the baby, and it was like, you couldn't even leave the house. So I just retired from TV.
So from like the moment you left 4 days before Matthew was born, you were like, hey, I'm not going to come back.
No, they were like, hey, we'll give you 10 weeks. Why don't you think about it? So I had him, and then I went in to see them like mid into my maternity leave. And they were like, what are you thinking? I'm like, guys, I just can't. And I was sad.
What year is this?
2017.
2017. Okay. I mean, 7 years ago, you're riding high on being like one of the top coveted seats in broadcast in Indianapolis.
And I loved my job.
Yeah.
That was the thing. I loved it. I loved it.
But then obviously you have 3 kids, and it's like, sometimes you got to prioritize family life.
And you got to pivot. Sometimes there are signs in your life that are saying pivot your career, pivot your choice, pivot this. And you need to watch those signs. Now, mine was a very clear sign. There were 30 diapers a day to change and everything else.
I can't imagine.
And again, it was just too much emotionally, physically, mentally. And it was the best choice for our family. And so that was what it had to be.
So then was the plan, hey, I'm going to retire from television and I'm going to mom?
Yeah.
Okay. So
there was no other plan.
So you're just chilling.
I'm
Not
just chilling.
But
I'm mad. I'm
professionally,
chilling. Yeah.
professionally is just like, hey, I'm going to be a mom right now.
Yeah.
Then when did you decide like, I still have this new chapter that I want to write?
This is a real story. I don't think you've met my husband, Jason, also went to DePaul.
I think I have at a DePaul thing at some point throughout the years.
And about a year, Matthew was turning 1. And I remember being upset. I was like, I am not, I got my master's while I was on television too in public affairs at IU. And I just felt like I wasn't using I love to call them rare and valuable skill sets. I wasn't using the gifts that I was given intellectually and kind of like God-given abilities every single day. And I knew I was pivoting, but I was also like, well, what's my next era, to borrow Taylor Swift. And I sat at the kitchen table after we'd put, I call them fake triplets, after we put the fake triplets to bed. And Jason and I are sitting there at the kitchen table. And he said, well, what do you want? I said, I don't know. And he said, well, what are you good at? I want you to take a piece of paper. And he threw me a piece of paper and a pen. He said, what can you do? I can read a teleprompter. He was like, okay. Write good stories. And he was like, okay. but what are your skills? What are your rare and valuable skill sets? And he was like, you're a good critical thinker. You're a great multitasker. And he made me write them down. And then he was like, how do you want to use them? And that was the conversation. I can still see it vividly. There's those moments in your life where you're like, I remember that one. Like I told you about the 9/11 story. But he forced me to say, you have these skill sets. What are they? And how do you want to apply them? And the only person that can answer that question is you. You can't wait for other people to say, go do this, go do this, go do that. You have to answer the question, what do you want? And I said, I just need to use my brain in this different way 10 to 15 hours a week. And that's how that conversation got started. Went online, opened an LLC, Pence Media Group, LLC. And I was like, all right. Because I kept getting questions from people about how do you get your good product or service on television? How do you do that? How does that happen? How do you do this? Marketing, communications, PR. And I knew I could do it for them because I was intelligent, I had experience, but I wasn't tactically trained. And then I got thrown another loop, and my father, Congressman Greg Pence, decided to run for Congress. And he said, I need a communications director. And I said, yeah, we better find you one. And he said, no, you're going to do it. And I said, I am not doing that. And he said, yeah, you are. I hated it because I don't like, aggressive, confrontational, always, I don't like political communication.
I'm so great and you are terrible.
Yeah,
You're the worst person ever.
And I just didn't want to get involved in it, but it was your father and he asked me to do it. And I'm glad he did because I learned all the tactical applications of PR and marketing, crisis communications, social media management, CRM, email marketing, name it. I learned it and had to do it on my own. And that's how I learned to kind of apply my rare and valuable skill sets.
What year was that?
To that. That was in 2017.
Okay, 2017.
Late 2017, 2018.
How long was that campaign?
2018, I'm sorry. So it was, I told him I would help him till the primary, because in Indiana, once you win the primary, usually pretty good. And then I sent him out. So I did it for 6 months.
6 months. And then from there, so kids are over 1 now?
Yeah, they're like 2, 2, 1.
2, 2, 1. Okay.
2 and a half, 2.5, 1.5.
Okay, fun. Campaign ends and you're like, great, I do not want to do politics.
Never.
Not for me.
No.
What was like the next kind of shift then? And like, what was the first big break for Pence Media Group?
We had some really great people take a chance on us and say, yes, I'm going to bet on her and bet on
I was going to say,
this.
you're using the us. Was there an us in
No,
20?
I just think of it as an us, because now it's not
saying.
just me, right? And so I had people who said, I'm going to bet on this person. I know they know what they're doing. Those original clients were Slapfish, CCHA, Church, Hiddle, and Antrim here in Indiana. It's the third largest law firm in Indiana. And then also Mashcraft Brewing. All clients still today.
Oh, heck yeah.
And so, and Linda Zanaco with He Knows Your Name. Those 4 clients took a bet on me, and I'm forever grateful. And as a small business owner, and every small business owner remembers those moments when they happen, the first check that you deposit, everything. And so that was 2019, really. And then we're rocking and rolling.
Heck yeah. I love it. And what's kind of like the focus? Like you get your first customer and you're like, well, because you're not like traditionally agency trained.
No.
You're not traditionally PR trained. Like you've been on the other side of it.
Yeah.
You've been the public, maybe less of the relation. So what was like the first task or first customer that you were working on?
We did a lot of work with like strategic communications and like going back and looking at Church, Hiddle, and Antrim, looking at their organizational structure as it relates to marketing communications. I always tell everybody, we are a true consultancy. We come in and we help you identify what issues you have, strengths, weaknesses in marketing, PR, and communications. We're not gonna tell you if the org is built right. We're not gonna tell you if the right people are in the right seat, but we can tell you what we see with PR, communications, and marketing. And I think, Nate, the reason that I was so confident in doing all that is because I did go through my master's experience with my public affairs degree, and I was privy to working through complex issues, creative, thinking, also critical thinking, and being solution oriented. And that was really beneficial to me.
I think right now, I love that. And I think right now, something that's really popular is like the solopreneur, right? Where you can kind of be a consultant about whether it's, marketing or technology, or a lot of people go off on their own, but they're just kind of like their own employee.
Yeah.
Was your goal from the beginning to build a media company?
Yes, because going back to what I said, I love television because I loved working with the producer and the executive producer and the videographers and everybody, but it also still felt it just didn't feel as collaborative because as the expert in my lane, I was the expert anchor, this was the expert producer, this was the expert videographer, and that was your team assembled. And so you didn't have another peer who was also another expert. Now, I have mentors and great friends in the industry, Angela Ganote, Fanchon Stinger, who were also anchors, who were truly my friends and mentors, and we could work off of each other, but you didn't get to collaborate with the same role very often, if that makes sense. So why I loved creating Pence Media Group is because I could then bring, and we flipped it, and I love the word that you used at the intro, innovative approach. We are a true consultancy of experts, women who have 12 plus years of experience at PMG. This is not the agency model where you've got somebody here, somebody here, somebody here, somebody here. We all are here, master's degrees, and are ready to come in and truly solve client problems from the jump. And we operate as a true consultancy. So that's been fun because I'm learning from my colleagues and they're learning from me because we're all at the same level of expertise.
I love that. And I mean, you've won some awards. So if you've been, you kind of started in 2018, 6 years in, won some pretty cool awards, right? Well, won the Emmy, right? But then was it
nominated for the Emmy?
Nominated for the Emmy?
Yeah, nominated for
FFA?
the Emmy. Yeah, with National FFA.
Okay.
We've won, 15 Telly Awards, which those are pretty coveted in video production.
Okay.
Those are kind of like the video production awards for the in the video, they're the Emmys of video production. So they're called Telly Awards. We've won a lot of PRSA awards. And then in the last 2 years, we've won a Muse Creative Award for Best Small Agency of the Year. And that's been a big one because right now I can tell you confidently we're at 15 women. 15 women servicing anywhere between 30 and 35 clients a month. That's pretty impressive.
Oh, yeah. I mean, in the agency, everyone who's like been on the agency side, it's like it's a grind, like for sure. But it's fun for people that are able to context switch, right? Where you're helping with one customer solving this one problem, and then you like switch over and you're like, okay, now we're working on our Facebook ad strategy or whatever it is, like the next thing. And so being able to context switch, I think that like you can get your whole MBA from spending a couple years in the agency side working with all these different customers.
Right. I'll say this though, to that point about the grind, like. Not only did I want to flip the model, so when I looked at the space, I said, okay, I want to build a true consultancy. So we charge for our expert time and we have experts at the table only. But then secondarily, I want to create a culture that was different. I want to create a culture that embraces the working mom. The women on our team, we don't have the same hours billable every single week as other traditional agencies because I want them to have a really positive work-life balance. I want them to be able to feel supported. I don't make them go out and do business development. That's my job. We work 8:30 to 4:30. And before the pandemic, when I started PMG, I said, this is all remote. And that was kind of a big deal. People were like, so you're the group that of moms that, wears their pajamas and lives in Hamilton County. And I was like, yeah, but our brain still works. And so that's truly what we've done. We were remote first before it was a thing.
Before it was cool,
before it was a thing. And we are a true expert of consultancy of women who are prioritizing 8:30 to 4:30. And we don't do the extra stuff. I love networking. I love connecting with people. I love people. That's why I went into broadcast journalism. But I don't really believe in using people's time to go out and do things because everybody else is doing it. And so that made us, I think that's made our culture a lot different at Pence Media Group.
But I have a question for you. Did you know that Indiana has been a hub for sports innovation for over a century? Starting with the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, where pioneers tested game-changing tech like seatbelts and anti-lock brakes. That forward-thinking spirit is still in overdrive today, and Sports Tech HQ is at the center of it. They're on a mission to scout the most groundbreaking sports tech that is shaping the future of sports, and to bring those innovators right here to Indiana. Guess what? It's working. Sports Tech HQ already has 38 companies in its collective that call Indiana home, with 16 relocating from around the world in just the past year. Home to a world-class sports infrastructure, Indiana provides the perfect foundation for entrepreneurs to advance innovations that can change the game for fans, athletes, and teams. Sports Tech HQ is the leading global hub for an industry that is projected to reach $100 billion by 2030. Discover how these companies are driving the future of sports through Indiana's robust ecosystem of partners at sthq.org. Now let's get into the show. Background in traditional broadcast journalism.
Yep.
Was it intimidating to go start making some hires and to run a company?
For sure.
To me, I'm kind of in the seat where I'm like starting to think about like hiring people and stuff, and I'm like, it's kind of terrifying.
Yeah.
Especially not having I don't have the Wharton MBA or like all these accolades,
Right.
you know, and to go and get someone to like join your team.
Yeah.
Who was your first employee?
My first employee was Emily Sullivan. Shout out to Emily Sullivan. I think there's two things to think about. Number one, do you believe in betting on yourself? And if the answer is yes, then make sure that you're set up to be able to bet on yourself. So make sure that you've got a plan in place. So if I'm scaling, what does it look like? What does that mean? How can I own the responsibility and the risk of bringing in this full-time employee? And knowing that, like, that's a risk you're choosing to take.
Like that they rely on you as in charge of business development to go out and close clients, to bring in money, to pay their salary,
That's
to
right.
feed their family.
And I always say that's why I refer to PMG as like this elusive female. You know, she, like, we are all a part of this. Like, we're all feeding off of this thing, and it's a shared responsibility. And so again, that's how I approach it, with that mindset. And that's why it's not like, yeah, it has my name on it, but it's not just mine.
I love that. I think that's super unique. And is it like 100% intentionally, like you only are going to like grow it with women?
I think when I started it, right, it was a true consultancy for that working mom. Initially, it was built only with contractors, and they worked 15 to 20 hours a week because they had a lot of children at home, including myself. Now we've got 11 full-time employees, 4 contractors that are all in and have been all into PMG for 4 years. So they're effectively they are part of the team and wholeheartedly. But yeah, they're all women. And I think it's also because that's the culture we've created at PMG that people are attracted to. But also, I think our clients are aligning with that. You know, some of our clients are preschools or startups like Pluie, the startup, the world's first and only self-sanitizing diaper changing table. We got them on Shark Tank. We've got them in every, Good Morning America. I mean, their story is incredible. We've, incredibly, flipped that, startup to something that is mega that will one day be sold to Koala Care. And that's a cool receipt for Pence Media Group.
Oh, yeah.
So it's kind of like a little bit of both. That's the culture, and that's what our clients align with a little bit. And yeah, it just happens to be women. But there's no world where I'm like anti-man. I'm the mom of 4 boys. I don't consider myself a feminist. I don't consider myself, rah-rah female. I love females. I'm super supportive of it, but I'm not anti, right? And that's really important to me to say that out loud and to always affirm that, because I have this female company that's a sorority, and then I have a fraternity at my house. And so I wonder if I just did it that way, because I'm living in these 2 extremes all damn day.
Yeah, especially as your boys get older too, it's going to become
disgusting.
like way more fraternity,
It's
right?
gross.
Like, you get plenty of that. You're like, I'm just going to hang out with the ladies at work.
I live in extremes all day.
I love that. We'll talk about your family, right? You have 4 boys. You live up on the north side of Indy.
Yeah.
It's a crazy cool time to be a resident. I can't believe I'm going to say this, of Hamilton County. I'm like an outward. I'm a Broad Ripple guy. I love it down here, but a lot of my friends have started moving up there. I've spent some time in Midtown Carmel. This is slowly becoming like the Carmel hype podcast, I suppose.
You're like just saying it right now.
So like, when did you get on? Like, when did you move up to the north side of Indy?
Okay, so I'm from Columbus, Indiana. I ran cross country. I was super competitive. We hated Carmel High School. Hated. I still drive by the Carmel High School cross country course to this day, and I'm like, oh, remember when that girl spiked me in my heel that one time? I had that same kind of affinity thought process about Carmel. However, when you're growing your family and you get pregnant and you find out that you're having twins and you wake up at 2:30 in the morning, my mother-in-law lived in Carmel, and I told my husband, if we're going to do this whole live near one of the grandparents, we're going to do it. We're not going to live 10 minutes away. We're going to live in the same neighborhood area. So we're either moving to Columbus, where my parents are, or we're moving to Carmel, where your mother is. And then we found out we were having twins, so it was like, duh. And then we found out we had Matthew, obviously, on the way. And that was it. Game done.
There you go.
So that's it. That's how we landed in the Carmel area. But it's really Westfield. So
Okay.
I want to kind of correct that.
All right, so we're saying Westfield.
We're saying Westfield.
We're claiming Westfield. Okay,
We're claiming
good.
Westfield.
We're shifting out of the Carmel. Well, let's talk about that then. Give me Venn diagram, compare and contrast Columbus, Indiana to Carmel, Westfield, Indiana.
Okay, so Columbus, Indiana, from when I grew up, was small town. I mean, I had 300 people in my graduating class. You knew every single person. It was very agriculture focused and motivated, and lots of manufacturing down there. Those are not the same businesses that are obviously rooting right now in Westfield and Carmel. So I think that's a big difference. And just the proximity to cool things, Conner Prairie, downtown Carmel. Everything that's up there for families is huge.
A large portion of people from rural Indiana. I grew up in a town of 1,200 people in the middle of northern Indiana. Like I was an avid, like no private schools, no Carmel, blah. I don't like them all. And then I came here and I was like, oh, you can find your community in your pocket and like the small town vibe within the city of Indianapolis, within the north side of it. Like there are definitely similarities, and it's not, I'll say to my small town friends, it's not as bad as I once thought, right?
Yeah.
And I think that it's interesting to see when you spent time in both. Like, what were your favorite things about Columbus, and what are your favorite things about Westfield?
My favorite things about Columbus is just the variety of like what you can do down there. There's a lot going on in Columbus. You know, Columbus, Indiana is like a hidden gem. You know, I know you love to ask that.
It's an art. Like an architecture mecca. Like the I don't know what the whole story behind it is.
I just saw another article published. I think it was the Wall Street Journal about Columbus and the architecture and the history of it and just everything that happens down there. And that's absolutely, it's international and national claim to fame, but the people are awesome down there.
Well, and it's pretty, you talk about international, like it's pretty
very
vibrant. It's very cultured.
Yes.
Like I mean, with Cummins being there, there's just lots of different cultures that come and want to work at Cummins, and it ends up making it a little bit different. If you took the same exact city and put it somewhere away from Cummins, it would probably be less diverse.
Yep.
But there's a lot of diversity in Columbus.
There's tons. And even before Cummins really started to pop on the map, or any of the other companies, Arvin, when it was growing down there, we always had this event in downtown Columbus called the Ethnic Expo. And so each booth was set up, you know, there was Italy, there was India, there was China, and it was like you were walking around Epcot in Disney. And we always went to it, and we loved eating all the different food. And again, as somebody who was, you know, I've been so blessed to travel the world and speak languages, and my mother being, you know, first generation Italian immigrant, like that cultural connection has always been super important to me. And I know people who aren't from Columbus are kind of like, yeah, right. There's a lot of, you know, culture variation in Columbus, Indiana. Go down there. You will see it. And there's a lot of stores that sell different products. You know, it's neat. It's neat. And then you've got like gorgeous, you know, places down there like Grandview Lake, I think is one of the most beautiful lakes in Indiana. And a lot of people are starting to discover that.
I know all the like hidden, really good lakes are starting to be discovered.
I know.
Which is like sad
I know.
a little bit.
Up near your area there a lot.
Yes, there's some really, and it gets so expensive.
Tippy, yeah.
Oh, like, which are like, I've always been kind of known, but it's like everyone loved like Wawasee.
Well, yeah.
And now it's like Lake Tippy, and some of the other ones up there are like kind of getting like.
And that's how Grandview is in Columbus, I think, too.
Yeah, where the Sweetwater crew is now shifting over that way.
Yep. We grew up with a place that we got to frequent on Lake Monroe. And obviously that's Indiana's premier and gorgeous.
Lake Max.
Culver. Oh, you think Max is?
Oh, I did a whole thing on, I thought that Lake Monroe was 2 and Lake Maxinkuckee and Culver was 1. They're both really, really good. I just think that Lake Maxinkuckee and Culver is, you have the lake community, like the tight-knit small community. But it's
I've been
also
to that
beautiful.
church there on Sundays every now and again for Mass when we've gone up there.
I love that.
I'll put Lake Monroe as number 1, but I still think you've got a good top 3 there.
Yeah. Okay, so take me to, let's talk about the north side of Indy. Like recommendations. A lot of times people are traveling in, maybe there's different spots they want to check out. Where are you hanging out with your family on the north side of Indianapolis?
Downtown Westfield. So we will ride our golf cart to downtown Westfield. And I love how Mayor Willis has really embraced that whole idea of creating like a golf cart community. Downtown Westfield is still charming. It's got incredibly awesome local businesses.
This is east of 330 or of 31, right?
Correct.
Like, because there's like the food strip with the houses or something.
Yeah. So you've got, you know, the Italian house there. You've got Greek's Pizzeria, which is locally owned. You've got Nyla's. I just went to, my husband and I had a date night there. And then you've got Something Splendid, which is an awesome locally owned business that has like gifts and goodies and has a DePaul connection. So you'll have to check it out.
Okay.
They actually were one of our first clients at Pence Media Group and helped pop them up on the map.
I love that.
And then just the downtown Westfield charm and what they're trying to do down there. It's exciting to see all that because the growth is going to happen in Westfield. Carmel's all done. You know, Carmel's as big as it can be.
They're not making any more Carmel.
No, they're not. But it's, I mean, I love Carmel. But the Westfield area, that's what, you know, is going to be fun to watch. Grand Park, my youngest son, my baby, Luke, he goes to preschool up at Kids 360 at Grand Park. We play Elevate football on Wednesday nights. We have a playoff game tonight.
Let's go.
So they are like,
What's
they
the
literally
team?
are like,
What's the
let's
team?
go. What is their team this year? They change it every year. I feel like it's just like the Raiders.
Yeah, right. It's like
I'm like, and I got fake triplets that play together. So today on the way to school, they're like, I'm scoring the touchdown. Colin's throwing to me. Andrew's doing this. Matthew's doing this. I'm like, all right, boys, these are great big pipe dreams for tonight's
that
playoff
actually
game.
will be pretty cool. It's like the time that the Twins get to be junior, and you have like, if you had like the center, the quarterback, and the wide receiver, like that would be
It could be something.
Cool.
They think they're Travis Kelce and Jason Kelce. Let me tell you, they really do. They envision that for their future, and I'm like, boys, I'm here for it. So make it happen.
I love that. That's super fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so downtown Westfield, is that like where Field Brewing is? Is that like that area too?
Yeah, right there. It's all the same. But I think downtown is like that strip where the new library is. The library is gorgeous and just really impressive.
What do you like more about Westfield than Carmel?
Westfield's so much smaller. So it's like you can't even compare it yet because I'm a huge fan of like downtown, midtown, and Carmel. City Center in Carmel. Like I love going there and shopping at those local stores. But I think what I love about Westfield is that there's still so much opportunity. Like I think it's fun to be a part of something that's growing. And like being there and saying, I was there from the jump. I watched this thing, didn't look like this.
Back when there were still fields
Back
in
when
Westfield.
they were still like walking to school, So that's, I you know what I mean? It's just fun to be a part of that. The come up story. It's just fun to be a part of it.
I love that. I think that Westfield for sure. I mean, you just like think of like all that expansion. I had Mark Julien from JC Hart on the show,
okay.
and he said that he thinks Sheridan is like the next one. It's going to just keep going.
Well, yeah, there's only place to go north,
and
right?
and Cicero, Cicero up there will be like one to watch out for. Which the north side of Indianapolis is just like it's ripping. I was just at the new Fishers Event Center.
Yeah, it's incredible.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Like the Fuel and then the new volleyball team, the Ignite, are going to play there. We went to Turnpike Troubadours, which is like a country western band. Imagine the Coliseum down at the fairgrounds.
Oh, I remember.
Brand new. Like it just like feels, it's just amazing.
Right.
It's like, oh my gosh.
I was there when the Coliseum was recently new in Fort Wayne, and I remember it being such a big deal. So it is fun to see
Coliseum.
that. Yeah.
I thought the Coliseum at the fairgrounds here.
Sorry, I was talking about our Fort Wayne.
That one's really nice too. That's a really good venue.
Yeah, so like it's just, I remember seeing Kenny Chesney at the Coliseum in Fort Wayne, and I thought, this is before he popped. I thought, damn, Fort's getting real cool by getting Kenny Chesney here.
Yeah, like there would be like lines like all the way from Fort Wayne to Indianapolis if he played up there again.
100%.
Okay, well now we're coming kind of to the end of the show. I have some fun questions that we put together that we just like to some that we like ask every week, and another one that we have curated just for you. When it comes to traditional media, if you were giving advice to a new, someone who's just graduating from DePaul and wants to go pursue media, what advice would you give to them?
I would tell them, what storytelling are you trying to do? So when somebody comes to me and they say, I want to be a broadcast journalist, do you want to be a broadcast journalist because you want to be in front of a camera, or do you want to be a broadcast journalist because you're a truth seeker? Because 15 years ago, when I got into broadcast journalism, the only way that you could have, kind of a platform, you could tell stories, you could be in front of a camera, was to be a broadcast journalist, right? Think about it. News was the way people got their information from local television stations. Now, I push back on young people just to make sure, is your intention to be a truth seeker to inform the public, or are you more just wanting to be a creative content person? And if you want to be a creative content person, double check all your options. You can do that by creating a platform like you have. You can do that by being an influencer. You can do that by making your own production company. So days of old, 15 years ago, the only way that you could share information and share stories and really get, the meat and potatoes out there and have a broadcast microphone was to be on local news. And now that's not the case. So I've actually had conversations with young people where they've realized, maybe I don't want to be an actual broadcast journalism. And frankly, that grind is pretty intense. I never was home every holiday. My hours were wacky. I either worked 2 to 11:30 at night, or I worked from 3:30 to 1. Those were the shifts, mornings or nights. So I always remind people, like, you don't have to do those shifts anymore to be a true content curator. So just making sure they know where they want to go, so they don't feel like they made the wrong choice.
I think we're going to get, and I want to get a little more broad here too, right? So that is spectacular advice. And then just 22-year-olds in general. So this question is brought to you by our friends at Or Fellowship. They're a great organization here in Indiana, helping develop young business leaders across the state. Nicole, what advice would you give to your 22-year-old self about life?
I would tell myself, and like I've told other 22-year-olds that I go back and speak at college campuses. I was at Franklin College a couple weeks ago. I go back to DePaul frequently. I would say, write down and understand and truly, authentically align your rare and valuable skill sets. Don't tell me that you're a great critical thinker or a great multitasker if you're not. What do you bring to the table? And know that. So when you go into an interview, you can say, here's what I am capable of doing. Here's what I tactically know how to do. I'm good at Photoshop. I'm good at Canva. I can use a DSLR. Whatever all of that is, write it down, own it, and be able to completely explain your rare and valuable skill sets, and do not exaggerate them. That's my big thing with young people is they'll either exaggerate them or they'll kind of, be a little wishy-washy with it. And it does no one any good because then you're not put into a position where you can really shine. And it's just incongruent. So I'm really big on authenticity just in general.
A lot of times when people think of like their rare and valuable skill sets, it's like only the things you can put on LinkedIn, where it's like, I know how to use Microsoft Excel or whatever, or I know how to use a DSLR. But things like I think my number one rare and valuable skill set is energy. Mm-hmm. And like when I was 22, I don't know if I would have said that in an interview. Like I'm very energetic, but now I'm like, oh, if people want to work with me or do anything, it's like they know 100% they're going to get energy. And that is a rare and valuable skill set to bring because
I love that.
Not everyone has that, right? Or a curiosity, or like find those ways. It can just be character traits of who you are. Find your way to articulate that in whether it's an interview or the sales pitch or whatever it is, and then people will really know who you are.
And make sure it's authentic though, right?
Yes.
And so we even do this in brand development for clients. We built so many brands in Indianapolis and national brands for our clients. So a brand is equal parts visual identity, like your logo, and also content. And when you put everything together for a brand, what are their unique value propositions? To your point, what's their personality? What are their attributes? What are they selling? Their product, service, or good? And so the same is similar for your personal brand. What are your character traits? What are your talents? What are your skill sets? And all of that makes your personal brand. And don't over-index anything because you're going to do yourself a disservice. But also make sure you've got some things on there that are tactical. Like you're saying, can you use Google Docs? Can you do Canva? Do you know how to edit a video or photos? And if you don't, that's okay. But mind yourself, if you're trying to go to be a content curator, you're going to have a problem.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times early on, especially when I was 22, coming out of school, I tried so hard to make myself look cool. Yeah. I was like, oh, I want to look cool online versus just then when I switched and just started to do cool stuff, don't try to curate and fake these things to post about. Just go do shit that's worth posting or go do stuff that's worth talking about. And if you live a life that's worth talking about, then people will talk about it for you.
100%.
And that's my biggest, everyone, oh, I want to make content. It's cool. Go do the crazy stuff where you can make the video, whether it's you want to be the next Mr. Beast or you want to be on the nightly news or whatever it is, go create the content and do the thing versus just trying to make it fake it and make it look cool.
The Becker boys love Mr. Beast. So thanks for that shout out because I hear his voice all the time.
He's crazy.
He's crazy.
In the coolest way possible.
I know. We love Mark Rober. We love Mr. Beast. We're huge Pat McAfee fans at our home. I want to comment on that too though, is I always refer to that whenever we have team meetings at Pence Media Group is the receipts. So one of the things I also wanted to do when I started Pence Media Group is I focused on culture and then I focused on execution. We're all experts and that's what we're delivering. But then I was always big about the receipts. What did we do for our client? And if you follow us on social media, you see we're so focused on the receipts. We're not the group that's going to tell you that we got together and we did a chili cook-off or we had some sort of, hoorah-rah team meeting. Even though we have that incredible culture, we're the group that's going to say, this is what we did. This is what we created value for our client. And we show you the receipts because at the end of the day, people are buying your product, service, or good because it gives them value. Mm-hmm. So I always tell people that. The receipts is what you need to showcase.
That's great advice.
So there you go.
In the vein of rare and valuable talents,
okay.
What's a secret talent that no one knows about you?
I can do the splits. I don't know if that's a talent. I do it all the time at parties. It's my party
trick.
Your
party trick is to do the splits.
And my party trick is to do the splits.
Trick.
It is a fun trick.
You just bust, you're just get in the center of a dance circle and just bust that out.
Yeah, it's not ideal.
Yes.
And then when I'm pregnant, I just do the air leg guitars. So because I can't go down and do the splits for fear of, going into, birthing. Going into child labor. So So yeah, that would be my fun random vibe.
We're going to need the receipts on that one. We're going to need the split receipts.
Yeah, Lexi has receipts. And then I would say, I speak Spanish, so maybe many people might not realize that. I love traveling. I love culture. I love everything about it. I don't know if that is a skill.
I want to talk briefly, like growing up in a house with a politician.
Yeah.
Right? Well, you have the Marine background, but I feel like, especially today, like people are mean to politicians.
So mean.
Especially the keyboard warriors. What years was your dad running?
I grew up loosely connected to politics for a while. So when I was in high school, my junior year is when my uncle, Mike Pence, got elected as the congressman in Columbus. So he was our congressman. He would come to the high school, he would speak, he would talk to us about voting and how you vote on the floor and the card you get when you're a congress member and what it looks like to be a service your constituents, et cetera. So my uncle was my congressman growing up.
And when you were in high school, did you see people...
No one disrespected politicians like that.
Okay.
No, they very much felt like, and because it's equal parts the fault of the politicians generally and also the electorate, who is just so mad at the divisiveness, the electorate is, and the politician has been so self-seeking for attention. It's created this bad energy.
Was this 2000 when you were doing a junior, right? Somewhere around there?
Yeah.
So 2000, right?
Yeah,
it's like to complain to your politician, you had to write a letter or show up at the meeting.
And you did.
Right?
And people did.
People,
and they called the office.
And they would talk to your face.
100%. They would talk to you.
And I think as a politician or as anyone, like even if you're posting on social media, if someone comes up and says, I have a problem with your take about Carmel, I'll always listen to it. And I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I see where you're coming from. But it's the keyboard warriors that are just like behind their like fake screen name, talking shit to you. And it's like with politicians, it has to be insane. So that's in 2000. Your uncle is the congressman down in Columbus.
That's right. And then when I went down to Lexington, Kentucky, he was still the congressman there. And then when I came back up and I was the weekend anchor on WTHR is when he announced he was running for governor. So at the same time, it was interesting because obviously I had built my brand and worked my butt off. And there were keyboard warriors who would write onto my Facebook page and say, oh, you just got the job because you're the niece of somebody who's running for governor. And, you just, at the end of the day, I always tell people, ignore that. If you have your own receipts, your own rare and valuable skill sets, you don't have to participate. And guess what? You don't owe anybody a comment. Everybody thinks they have to respond to everybody in their DMs like it's somebody talking to their face. It's not.
I always say if you wouldn't take advice from them, then they'll listen to their criticism.
Yeah, I love that.
If it's not someone that I care about, because no one that's out in front of you is ever turning around and like talking smack to you.
Well, I think those people do exist.
Really?
Oh yeah, I think the world is that inauthenticity of like, you really want to know who that is. If you're in front of somebody, you really want to make sure, is this somebody who has my back or is this somebody who has my back only when I'm around? But yeah, so the politics thing has been interesting. And then eventually, obviously, my uncle was tapped as the vice president of the United States. And then my dad ran for Congress. So people say to me, oh, you've been in this political family for a long time. 10 years has been it. Was that
hard to, like support? Like, cause I'm just thinking through of like the ads that you're seeing on TV, and it's like I don't know if people are running. I mean, people are clearly running ads against your uncle for sure. I don't know about your dad.
For sure.
Is that hard to like you go to Thanksgiving and you're like I don't know, like just like the dynamic there seems like it would be very challenging.
Yeah, I think it is, but I think again, if you are open to having constructive conversations with anybody, whether it's with your family or it's with a friend, I've had a lot of friends who don't agree with my politics. I always say I'm a Republican and I'm not mad about it. And I'm fine and I have those positions and I have tons of friends who are Democrats and we have that super, super positive discourse because I respect them. It's when you decide not to respect someone for their point of view or their opinion, that's when the world starts to go the wrong way.
And that's like 100%. I'm like interested in politics, especially like the local politics that I think make a huge impact on our day-to-day lives.
They sure do.
And it's like you turn on YouTube TV and all of a sudden it's just like Indiana, everyone comes and sits in this chair and talks about how collaborative the state is and how much we all like each other and how much we work together. And then I turn on YouTube TV and it's like Jefferson Shreve or Hogshead. And I'm like, guys, we're supposed to be building each other up. Like
I know, but
crazy.
it's also in part what people have wanted. People want to watch people go like this, for almost like a gladiator thing, who's going to be the winner in the ring kind of a thing. There's a lot of reasons this dynamic and discourse has happened. But yeah, I think growing up in and around politics. And that's why, as somebody who, when I started my own company, I said, I'm not doing any of that. I wanted to grow Pence Media Group by not working with a campaign, a municipality, or some sort of political organization, because I didn't want people to say that my receipts were connected to something other than my hard work.
Your success is connected to anything besides the effort that you're putting in.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
That is so
that's the route we went, because it could have been, not easy, but business development would have been a little easier.
That's the way it goes. Like 100%. You could have easily gone to probably almost every campaign in the state and been like, I did this one. Like, let me do your, and like you would have probably built a whole consultancy based around political campaigns.
Yep.
I think that it is probably a lot more fun to not worry about that and to like go the private sector route.
I like surprising people. It's fun.
Incredible. Shift gears a little bit there. Who are the top 3 interviews on your highlight reel?
I really do like asking politicians tough questions. I was the political reporter in Fort Wayne, for a stint at my time there. I loved doing that. And then, of course, as my family got more involved, I shifted away from it because I didn't want that conflict to be seen. Billie Jean King was a really interesting interview when she came here, tennis pro, first female to win an Olympic gold medal in tennis for America, something like that. So Google me. Billie Jean King was really interesting. What we haven't talked about yet is I am super focused on philanthropic endeavors. It is a really important part of why I do what I do, whether it's personally or professionally. And so to me, working on stories that involve nonprofits or individuals or kids who are fighting horrible diseases and battles and their stories, like Tyler Trent, those are the stories that have impacted me the most. And now at PMG, we have a whole vertical called PMG Gives Back. And we do a ton of nonprofit work. And we also donate a lot back to organizations because it is what fuels us. And so to me, it's those stories are often the ones that impact me the most.
Hosting the Riley prom?
Oh, yeah. Hosting the Riley prom.
Tell us about that one. I was doing our research. I thought that was super interesting.
Yeah.
And it's just an amazing.
But that's a good example of, we create this Riley prom experience, and it's the kids who are outpatient who have fought cancer get to go to this Riley prom. Well, what about all the kids in the tower who are stuck in their rooms? What should we do for them? So I said, let's develop a show. Let's be like Blippi. Blippi's a guy on YouTube. My kids love him. So I basically am Blippi, and I go around. I got to interview Scott Dixon with Chip Ganassi. And
that's a pretty cool interview.
That's a pretty cool interview. I mean, I've interviewed all the celebs, Indiana celebs. But we make a show for the Riley Children's Hospital every single year. I donate all of that time, all of that work, all of that producing. And the kids get to then watch a show as part of prom week. And full circle, I started working with Riley Children's and Women for Riley and Make-A-Wish years ago. I started a Wishful Wednesday segment on television when I was in Lexington, Kentucky. And then I brought it up here. And now, fast forward 2 years ago, my son Matthew was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And now, unfortunately, I say unfortunately because it's true, I'm a Riley mom. I'll get a little emotional, but it's how full circle is that? So now I have always said yes to giving back to Riley and philanthropic endeavors and Make-A-Wish. And now I'm living this world where I have a son who fights a chronic illness every single day, super challenging, not cool, super hard. I'm connected to it in a different way now, so it has so much more meaning than it had before.
But you put out so much good into the world, right? And it's and you never know when that's going to come full circle. When you spend the early part of your career, being a part of Riley or Make-A-Wish and all these different things, and then one day you're now we're on the receiving end of that.
Nate, when we got the diagnosis of type 1 diabetes, and I didn't know much about it, and if you know much about it, it is a big deal. It's the most challenging daily disease for a young person and for anybody. And I got that phone call, and they were like, "We're gonna, you need to get to Riley right away. He's very, very, very sick." I was lucky. I could make 4 phone calls right after I talked to my doctor to say I'm headed in. I was sobbing on the phone with one of the medical directors there because I was so overwhelmed. And I wasn't sobbing to say, I need great care, here I come. It was help me. I'm scared. I'm lost. I'm worried about my child. And they answered my call because I had answered so many requests from them. So it was full circle. I hate it. I would do anything to get rid of this for him, but it is a cross that we bear as a family, and it creates a different perspective for us. Like, nothing is so serious anymore when you have a daily fight like that. It's just not. I don't sweat the small stuff. I got shit on my plate, I got real shit on my plate.
I think through the fact of like being a young, like how old's Matthew?
He was 5 when he's diagnosed.
Like 5, and now how old is he now?
He's 7. He's turning 8 in like 2 weeks.
Yeah, like going to birthday parties,
So challenging.
Like that's hard. Because you're already off the jump excluded from like Halloween candy or stuff like that, where it just makes it way more difficult and challenging.
So birthday parties for him, all the other kids get dropped off. Him, I have to stay there. It's incredible. It's like I sit in the back because he can't monitor his own diabetes. He doesn't know how to dose himself. He doesn't know anything about it. He knows about it. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that. That's offensive to him. But he doesn't know how to do it. He doesn't know how much insulin he needs.
Like calculating.
So his mom is exactly. See, you know more about it, but I didn't know anything. So when we got this diagnosis, it was so overwhelming. So now I'm trying to figure out. First year, I was so overwhelmed. I cried so much. It's so grief. It's overwhelming. Second year, I'm acknowledging it. And his diabetes anniversary was just a couple days ago. And now I'm ready to be an advocate. Yeah. And so now I couldn't even say this out loud a year ago. I would never have brought it up on this podcast. Wow. But now I'm like, okay, Matthew's comfortable with it. I can't, every morning I wake up, I'm like, do we still have diabetes? I'm like, damn it, yep, we do. And that's where I'm at now.
So my college roommate was diabetic, type 1 diabetic. Yeah, he was. Shout out Zach. And I could always tell, like,
when he was low.
So he was a football player too. So like we'd come home from practice and he'd just be like a dick.
Yeah, 100%.
Like an extra dick. And
100%.
I'm like,
you knew that he was high.
I was like, hey, buddy, like you need to figure, like maybe you need
sugar. Maybe you need sugar, or maybe you need some insulin.
I could always tell when he was out of whack because he'd just like say one mean comment, and I'd be like, okay,
and then were you
Buster.
there next to him when he was drinking at parties and making sure he didn't bottom out?
Yeah, I was. No, I was not there. He was. Okay. Luckily, he was like, he's very disciplined and mature enough to like he can handle it himself there. But we could definitely like. After practice or whatever, he needed to get sugar and stuff into 100%. Him. Or if he gets too high, and he had like the meter and the stuff.
We have it all.
His little like Palm Pilot that he would carry around. I would just be able to tell that his diabetes was out of whack based on the comments that he made. But you have
so much more knowledge than anybody, that about type 1 diabetes and how just impactful it is to a child and their family. Like, I mean, if people don't understand. And fun fact, when Matthew got diagnosed and we had to make it like, some sort of like fun and understanding for a 5-year-old. And then it impacted all of his brothers and it turned into a whole thing. We decided that we were going to kind of call him Iron Man. Because you know how Iron Man has to wear Jarvis and Jarvis is his computer. So we call Matthew's controller and Matthew's Dexcom phone, and he carries it around in a pouch. And we were like, where's Jarvis? Did you get Jarvis? You left Jarvis in the playroom. Grab Jarvis. He's our Iron Man.
That's awesome.
That's his Jarvis. So,
and I think they're making huge strides.
I believe he's going to have it. Stem cell research. There's a ton coming out.
Well, and even like the pump, the way it used to be, where you had like the wires that hung out. Now it's like the arm thing, and like.
So he wears 2 different devices. He wears his Dexcom, and he also wears his pod that gives him insulin. And fun story on my social media. The Colts, I've been connected with Lara Overton and the Colts for years, obviously, and they knew that Matthew had been diagnosed and I hadn't shared it externally. And they connected us with number 10, A.D. Mitchell. He's one of our newest recruits at the Colts. He's awesome. He's catching balls. He's getting touchdowns. And A.D. was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when he was 17. So video went viral. The Colts actually posted about Matthew's type 1 diabetes before I did. I wasn't even, I gave him the okay, but I needed someone to push me to do it because I was just so overwhelmed. And A.D. Mitchell has been such a great person to Matthew. He waves at him during the games. He comes over and gives him a handshake. He tags Matthew in social media, like tags me in social media posts and Matthew. So type 1 diabetes community is incredible. You don't want to be a part of it, but A.D. Mitchell, he's my guy.
That is amazing. And it's so cool to be like, yet we have this thing that we deal with, we still thrive. Like A.D. Mitchell is like doing it at the peak.
You have to watch this video. He looked at Matthew, he goes, you're going to be in the NFL just like me. You're going to do it. You're not going to let it. We're warriors. And I was sobbing. Okay. My husband, I'm kicking on the leg. I thought he was going to pass out. He couldn't even speak. And I'm speaking, talking sports ball, and the other brothers are just so overwhelmed to see this guy. It was incredible. So you'll have to share it on your social.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Jim Irsay shared it. Everybody shared it.
That's amazing. As we wrap up, we have a few fun questions that we ask every guest.
I know. I think I'm ready. I think you're prepared. A little bit.
Okay. So Nicole, what's something the world needs to know about Indiana?
Well, I think like the blanket statement is there's a lot more to Indiana than cornfields, but I think it's different than that. I think Indiana is progressive. I think Indiana is, an agricultural focused community. Our work with National FFA has helped me realize just how incredible it is that Indiana is at the forefront of agriculture, and it's all about feeding the world and making sure that we don't rely on other countries. I'm a mom of 4, and one of them is a type 1 diabetic. We got to have healthier food in this country. We've got to have healthier food. So let's go, Indiana. Lead this conversation. Lead the charge. Eli Lilly, all these things. Let's go.
I just had Martha Hoover from Patachu and all that.
I've interviewed Martha.
She is
several
incredible.
times.
I think you'll really like. I'll send you the link when it goes live. Her episode about food and the quality of food, the value equation of food was super interesting, and the way she thinks about it and how she's helping with food insecurity in public schools here in Indianapolis, is amazing. So I love that. Taking pride in agriculture and not thinking of it as like old and stale, and thinking of it like, hey, there are tons of really cool innovations happening at Purdue specifically about agriculture.
100%. And when I was in high school, right, Columbus, Indiana, just like you, huge farm area. National FFA was all farmers and tractors, and they drove their tractors to school on FFA day, but that's not the case now. It's engineering, it's engineers, it's broadcast journalists, it's creative thinkers, it's bloggers, it's writers. National FFA is it's incredible, and headquartered here in Indiana too.
Oh.
A 1 million member organization, leadership youth organization.
I might need a.
Let me know. We got cool clients that you can talk
give me
to.
a softball on that one. That would be fun. I can talk about drive your tractor to school day. I'm here for that.
Okay.
Here we go. What is a hidden gem in Indiana?
I really like Holiday World, and I know it's gonna be. Some people are gonna be like, "What?" I like Holiday World. I think it does. I think it needs some love. I think we all need to go down there and check it out. It's easy. We took the boys down there. We stayed at French Lick. Then we went over to Holiday World, and then we came back. And I was just like, "This is so fun," and I loved it.
Do they still have unlimited sunscreen and unlimited drinks?
Of course they do.
Yeah, they do. I loved it. And I think there's a special thing around if you mail a Christmas letter to Holiday
Santa
World
Claus
that someone writes it back in Santa Claus. Like that's super cool.
Yeah.
And like there's someone, I don't know who I need to talk to that person.
Okay.
The person who's been writing the Christmas letters for, I don't know,
I love
50
that.
years or
Let's
whoever.
get you
Like there's
connected.
someone down there that does that.
Let's
So I
get you
love Holiday
connected.
World. That is a great hidden gem.
It is.
Great, even if it's a day trip or go and stay in French Lick, go down there and check it out.
And of course, I'll always bat for the home team, Columbus. There's a lot more in Columbus. You could make a whole day out of it between, the Kids Commons and the architecture tour and the food and Grandview Lake and just everything. Columbus is cool. And the Antique Mall, Exit 76 Antique Mall, that's pretty cool.
Finally, who's a Hoosier that we need to keep on our radar?
Okay, I thought long and hard about this, and I have 2 for you, a female and a male. So the female I think you need to watch and just continue to watch is Katie Lucas. She's incredible. So as the president of Lucas Oil Products, Katie Lucas, I really respect her because I'm watching a lot of professionals in the community who are my age, who are doing great big things, but it is often more impressive to me, and obviously I align with it because you align with what you kind of aspire to be, that they also are a mom. And they also are somebody of, married and a woman of faith. And so I'm really impressed by Katie Lucas. She's, taking Lucas Oil Products in an awesome direction. And then also she's super philanthropic. She is leading all the initiatives at Peyton Manning. She's super dialed in to making sure that Peyton Manning and St. Vincent continue to grow and service children here in Indiana. And I'm just always really impressed by her. So she is somebody we should watch.
That is a great Hoosier, just individual. Katie, you have a standing invitation to come on the show whenever.
Can connect you with her.
Yes, that would be so much fun to talk about. And then you said you had a mail.
I do. I have a mail. So somebody that we've gotten to know as a client of ours at Pence Media Group, but also just an incredible guy, is Ryan Worman. So Hoosiers know Bob Worman. Do you remember the Bob Worman commercials? He's
Tires
the
or
automotive. So he owned car dealerships. You were younger when he was around, but he said Bob Worman, and that was his big claim to fame. He was the first guy who had this idea that you could make a personality out of being a car dealership guy, right? Bob Werman and the Werman Automotive Group is one of the most successful automotive groups, and they're based here in Indiana. They have dealerships in Illinois, up in Wisconsin. They're a big deal and owned by this family, the Werman family. Well, Bob sadly passed away several years ago, and his grandson, so third generation, Ryan Werman, has taken over, and he is just a really impressive person. He's smart, he's intuitive, he's innovative, and he's taking it away from old idea that, a car dealership and car dealership salespeople are slimy or they're distrusting, to innovative, smart, educated. He's pouring into his employees, and I think it's really impressive. They are a really cool company here in Indiana that's doing big things. They're super philanthropic. Obviously, that makes me really excited. So you got to watch Ryan Werman.
Okay.
He's a leader.
Roarman.
That's right.
I
You
love
got it.
I'll never forget that ever again. That's amazing. Nicole, thank you so much for the time today. This was awesome. Talking about, growing that traditional career in broadcast media to switching over to business owner and mom and all the amazing things you're doing. The philanthropy. Keep up the good work. Great follow on social media. If you don't, where can people connect with you at?
At Nicole Pence is social media, and then at Pence Media Group.
Yes. And if there was the right individual that was thinking about working with you, who are you looking for?
I'm looking for somebody who's energetic. I'm going to use your word. I love it. Who's curious. That's a word we brought up today. And who's confident and capable. And that capable has to be, what are your rare and valuable skill sets? We're looking for PR people, marketing people, social media people, videographers. And we just have a really special place at PMG because we have the best clients. I swear, we have the best clients.
It all starts there.
It does.
Well, if you're out there and you're looking to get into media and you want to do fun stuff with cameras and other media assets, you know where to hit up. Make it happen. Thank you so much for the time today. Thank you for all the amazing stuff you're doing across the Hoosier State. This was an incredible conversation. We literally talked about everything from politics to sports to
diabetes.
Like I literally everything. It was amazing. I love it. And
Mr. Beast.
Literally, you can go back and there's anything on the internet we talked about. Thank you for all you do. We'll have to get you back on after we can check in on playoff football for the boys. See how we end up doing.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
Yeah, please do. And thank you.
Thank you, Nate. And thank you for doing this because Indiana is a special place and you're helping to highlight it.
Huge thank you to our friends at Greek's Pizzeria. Since 1968, Greek's has been serving up delicious pies all over Indiana, from Fort Wayne to Crawfordsville down to Bloomington and everywhere in between. Greek's Pizzeria is all over the state. You need to go check out the video I posted of Mike Cole. Now, Mike owns the Greeks in Zionsville. He ran the Mill Race Marathon in Columbus and broke the world record for fastest marathon while holding a pizza. It was a spectacle. It was super awesome. The man crushed it. He ran a 3-hour and 15-minute marathon while holding a pizza. That's faster than I run my normal marathon. It was an insane feat to witness. Give yourself a break from making dinner tonight. Pull out your phone, go to GreeksPizzeria.com and find the store nearest you. Order a large pepperoni. You're going to be a hero for your significant other, your kids, whoever they are. They're going to love you. There's a reason they've been in business for 55 years. They know what they're doing when it comes to pizza. Go check out GreeksPizzeria.com. Thank you for listening to this episode of Get In. If you like what you heard, make sure you leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts. This show is made possible by our friends up at Sweetwater. Whether you're looking to start a podcast or take your content to the next level, click the link in the description to see all of my gear recommendations at Sweetwater.com. If you want a behind-the-scenes look at everything we're doing across the state, make sure you follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Nate Spangle. Thank you so much for listening and being part of what makes the Hoosier State great. We'll see you next time here on Get In.